Yo. So, I've got a bunch of books lately from the library that I have been reading to help with my mental health and just to better myself overall. And actually, I prepared a stack. These are some of them. I don't know if you can see the labels clearly. Um, but yeah, that's some of them. And this one, I'm gonna actually read some of this. And I was just thinking to myself, maybe somebody else might need to hear something like this. So I decided to read some of it. This one is called How to Be an Adult in Love. And it's not just about your personal relationship with your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. It's also showing you how to be more loving towards your family members, your friends, and even to complete strangers. And not in a creepy way, but And like I've been reading all these books at the same time. Like I'll read a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one. Like I keep switching it up, and I've been taking hella notes. Like this stuff has literally been blowing my mind. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna get started. This mirrors the Buddhist teaching that there is no separate self. Separate in this context means not existing independently, but being entirely interdependent. Not freestanding, but contingent on, connected to, and everything else. We have a unique personality, body, and ego, but they too are interactive and interdependent. We are separate body mind. We are separate body mind beings, but are not separate from all other beings. We have to speak of ourselves and others to make useful distinctions. To awaken is to penetrate more and more deeply into the truth that there ultimately is no me or other. In the Diamond Sutra, which is like, the Buddha stuff, we read, although I ain't even gonna pretend like I can pronounce this. It's Bodhisattva. Saves all sentient beings. There are no individual sentient beings to save. The word self is, after all, merely a useful designation, not an indicator of a separate existence. In fact, our sense of separateness is our central illusion. It opposes connectedness, which is what love is all about, being connected. When we adjust our perspective in this way, we understand that we are not isolated selves, but selves in relationship, which is love. Our suffering comes from believing that we are separate, which is the opposite of love, a contradiction of our real nature. Sorry. Our sense of enduring autonomous self is nonetheless understandable. It happens because of the continuity of our name, our body, our memory, our personality, and most of all, our thoughts. In this sense, Renee made a statement, I think, therefore I am, is actually I think, therefore I think I am. Love, as compassion for others, also presupposes our seeing clearly that we are not separate. This is why in Buddhism, prajna, which means wisdom, our direct perception that we do not have a separate existence is necessary if we are to feel compassion. When we are not isolated from others, we are responsible for them and connected to them. Psychologically, we have two basic drives, to be independent and to be interdependent. We want to be alone and with others. We want relationships in which we can maintain our own individuality while we connect intimately. We do not want to lose ourselves in order to relate to others. We do not want to lose our relationships in order to preserve our self. No, not self. It's look, don't come for me. My reading may not be the best. Um, Autonomy. That's what it is. Autonomy. Our fondness for the companionship of pets tells us a lot about being alone and with. A man is sitting and reading with his dog quietly, lying by his side. Whether we are introverts or extroverts, we appreciate non interfering companionship. Our pet is present but not making demands, passing judgments, or interrupting us. Not everyone wants a partner, but we all want companionship of some kind, at some time from people or pets. This need is yet another indicator of our interdependence. Through it, we find what we are, which is love. Thus, true love requires that we surrender any attachment to rugged individualism and total independence. It means gladly embracing the teaching of universal interdependence, which is what we discover in spiritual consciousness. We can see, therefore, why love develops optionally with a spiritual practice. Our higher self, the no separate self, is ready for that development. It is usually our ego, frightened by surrender of any kind, that puts up a fight. When our very identity is equated with control, the prospect of giving it up can infuse us with panic. To let go of control can feel like dying, like not being anybody anymore. An unconditional yes to the unpredictable givings of life is a radical leap for an ego that has nothing to fall back on but its habit of controlling. Any work we can do on letting go of that fearful ego is therefore an act of great self love because it readies us for carrying connection. We work on our ego so we can leap into the arms of a higher self, that is, our real self or enlightened loving nature. We will explore this work in a later chapter. Embracing the teaching that there is no separate self shows us our place in the human community, equal in stature to and just as lovable as anyone else. The sense of coherence we feel as we maintain our own identity while loving others makes us more likely to love and trust ourselves. This will be quite a task to an ego that has to be superior. You hear that, bitches? No, I'm just playing. Once we affirm that we were made for love, it becomes easier to love ourselves without feeling that we are being selfish. That bias was introduced to us by family or religion or whatever source feared our full emergence. When we don't love ourselves, it is not because we are unlovable, but because we were repeatedly taught not to. Damn. Early in life, we might have noticed we were different. I am like this, everyone else is like that. That semicolon stood for immense disconnection, a loss of the chance to be included, placing in jeopardy the only way we knew of feeling loved. The cost to join may have been our true self. If I remain what I am here, I am in danger of disconnection, so it is better to be like everybody else. Damn. As we mature, we cherish our uniqueness and offer it to those who can receive it. This is how disconnection begins to feel like connection, and now the semicolon joins. Any of us may doubt that we are lovable. If they knew me, they would not love me, because I am not like them, as good as they are, and so on. The irony is that we become lovable to loving people when we show ourselves to them just as we are. Opening our unique qualities to them is seen as a gift, not a reason for excommunication. Those who have love will love us for who we are, and no matter how different we are from the mainstream. Those who don't love us for who we are deserve our compassion for missing a many splendored thing. Okay. Practice getting up when we are put down. Our primitive ancestors had to recall negative experiences more than positive ones so they could stay on high alert and thereby survive. It was more important to remember the close call with the saber-toothed tiger than the brilliant sunset. At the tribal level, we still have that inclination to recall, grab onto, and maintain negative memories often more firmly than positive ones. Self-loathing may have its origin in childhood, when we may not have been shown um, the five A's. The five A's, so y'all know what that is. The five A's is to admit, allow, act, affirmation, and admit, allow, to act, affirmation. What's the other one? And acceptance. Is there acceptance? Yes, it's acceptance. Acceptance. Okay, where was I at? We may instead have been held in contempt, humiliated, neglected, or abused. If we followed the example of parents who disliked us, we may now dislike ourselves. To have a contrary opinion about ourselves from that of our parents would have disconnected us from them, made us orphans, even though you're with them. Damn. Damn. It was safer since connection, not happiness, is always our primary need. To join them in turning against us, a sad loyalty indeed. In the socializing process, an inner critic is necessary to keep us in line, reminding us about what works and what does not in society so that excommunication can be avoided at all costs. One of those costs is ongoing self loathing. It takes a while to realize that the voice of the inner critic is imitating other voices. It is not a deter- determined of or in an infa- infallible guide to what is true about us. It would be better to have an inner lover who keeps reminding us of how loving we are and can be than an inner critic who puts us down. We learn to listen to the critical voice. We can practice learning to listen to the loving voice. Um, it is one of the most useful practices I have for making changes because it does not simply demand a reversible of unwanted thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. Instead, it honors all that we think and feel while offering a behavior that frees us from what may be interrupting our growth. When we let ourselves feel our feelings rather than look for an escape, finally we act in accordance with what is best for us. No matter how we think or how we feel, this very doable technique involves the use of the paradox, the poetic path to truth, an unfailing tool for healing. Here's how it works. We can hear unfairly critical or self loathing voices within us, so let's use this technique. We admit our pain about the verdict that was passed on us in the past and that we are now passing on ourselves. We allow ourselves to feel the pain and hold it in a cradling way, compassionate toward ourselves now for repeating it inwardly. We are also compassionate toward those who first pronounced the verdict because of their ignorance or malice, which were forms of pain within them. We act in the opposite way to the voices trying to dictate us. For instance, if the voice says you are selfish, we show some form of generosity at the first opportunity that comes along. This shows us that the critic's judgment was not correct. We design an affirmation that congratulates rather than disparages us. We repeat it silently and aloud throughout each day. An affirmation keeps our practice in our awareness and reminds us to continue in an everyday experience. Using our example from the last step, we can affirm each day I grow in generosity. I love myself more and more for being like this. 13? Okay. I'm gonna stop at like 15 minutes in. The approach lays down new neural pathways in our brain that override old ones. We can trust that we are truly moving from self negation to self affirmation. This is a powerful way to unset original limbic and primitive emotional programming. There is one caveat when using this practice: we cannot fully allow our feelings to emerge if we find that they flood or overwhelm us. In that instance, the allowing can so traumatize us that it's not safe. We are not resolving our feelings, only crashing. We can only use this practice if we can modulate or manage our feelings so that we feel only what we can handle. What would it take to desensitize ourselves so that we could contain rather than be possessed by our feelings? We would have to work, usually in therapy, on building our inner resources. This includes an unconditional yes of acceptance of ourselves as being just as fragile as we are. How hard something hits us is directly proportional to how much control we are trying to exert over it. This paradoxical and humbling practice of unconditional yes is how to limit we are is a path to healing. It is a long road, but it does not have to be a discouraging one. We should not never be ashamed of being sensitive. And I got a few seconds. A final word on what makes this practice work. Our inadequacies are not to be construed as proof of how bad we are, but of how human we are. The best position to be in for loving ourselves. When you hear yourself say, I am so messed up, instead, this is too workable since my inner inclination toward healing is stronger than any fault I may believe I have. I have right here and now everything required for my three goals of health, happiness, and growth. This is how your programming changed. You are no longer tied to the judgments of others that have made about you. You are now committed to trusting your inner goodness. It is this alignment to your goodness that make you more apt to love yourself and others. To recognize this inner goodness as a Buddha nature, God within, and a higher power than ego is to latch onto spiritual support for your work. What we all need so much. Yeah. And that's like, I still got a lot to go. I'm only on page 52. So, yeah, I just thought somebody might need to hear this stuff too. Pretty deep.